Thank you so much for joining me, hopefully during your lunch break, so that you can sit down and have something to eat. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Aroha Ayerst and I am the Customer Success Lead here at Vibe.fyi. So let me set the scene. What are we going to do today? This webinar is about maximising what you can achieve with Vibe. So I'll be doing some live demonstrations to really show you the power of Vibe and what you can do with it. But the key topics that I'm going to be talking about today, how a few extra seconds of your time will increase engagement, the key to delivering content in near real time and why it matters, and how it's going to save you a whole lot of time on your end. And along the way, I'll be sharing tips on finding the right layouts for your messages. But before I jump into that live demonstration that I mentioned, let's talk about the inspiration for this webinar. Why did we choose this topic to talk about today? So as part of observing the trends that happen in your channels for our existing customers, yes, I do get to see what's going on with your content, and from time to time I'll make recommendations, but I have observed a trend that I really wanted to touch on today, and that trend that I've been seeing when it comes to the content that you're creating in the Vibe portal, it also aligns with the feedback you've been sharing with me through our monthly check-ins or even the quarterly strategy sessions that we hold with you that you get as part of your subscription. And so what I want to really touch on first up is, and quickly share, is why it's important to deliver engaging content versus using the standard digital signage approach. Your internal comms displays, they're set up or have been designed to be set up in areas where you have a captive audience who are seeing the content on screens throughout the day, and they're probably, in the workspace when it's safe to be in the workspace for up to 5 days, and some are possibly in that space for 7 days a week. You're also dealing with a distracted workforce, a lot of us, and it doesn't make your job any easier. But if your goal is to increase engagement, you do need to captivate your audience through the delivery of engaging content. That's the internal comms approach. Whereas the standard digital signage approach, it's designed to present marketing messages and advertising using graphics and videos on repeat. So the trend that we do see, and for our existing customers, the trend that we're seeing is a lot of use of graphics and videos on repeat. And that's perfectly fine if your audience is only going to see the screen periodically. But when you need to captivate an audience who are seeing the screens day in, day out, you definitely need to use these tips that I'm going to share today to really get that engagement and really get that information in front of your workforce. So let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about transforming your content. So I'll go ahead and shift up the screen now. And just let me know in the chat if you can relate to what you're seeing as the source of the content that you're trying to put on screen. So what I've got is examples of maybe an intranet, or maybe you get emails. That's how the communication's going out at the moment. Or you find information online, maybe somebody sends you a PDF. Now, all of this type of content has been created for that purpose. PDFs might be to email out, and emails full of information that those with access to email can sit down and read in their own time. But what do you do when they've read the email, you've archived it off, and a day's gone by, you've lost a lot of the information you read? How do you get that in front of people in an engaging way? Well, let me show you. I'm going to start with some examples. This is the Vibe portal that a lot of you are familiar with. For those of you who are not familiar, I am going to take you through some key steps. Treat it like a training almost, so that you can really see what the Vibe portal delivers. But let's start by looking at web view. This is a way of previewing your content, your playlist, and how it presents on screen. I really want you to take in the animation, the way that the information's coming in is snackable form. It's giving you the sort of look and feel of a video, but the bonus is this has been created with the Vibe template, via the Vibe template library, so that you can easily change out these messages rather than having to rely on getting that animation through videos, which are very hard to update and it can take a lot of time. These sorts of layouts that I'm presenting on screen are preset with animations, and you simply plug in your message and the template will do the rest. That movement is key. It's important, but you can also see how each message is broken down so people can see exactly what you want them to take away from the content that you're sharing on screen. And this data insights example that I've got here, there's lots of different potentially dashboards that you have available. And you may go down the path of screenshotting or pulling in those static dashboards, but you're not going to get that same engagement. And in some instances, you're not going to be able to help people focus in on the key data that they need to take away. So these are some examples of lively content using the Vibe templates. And now I'll do a little bit of background before demonstrating how to actually create that type of content for your own organisation. So how many of us have either produced or been given a PDF that looks like this, and we've been asked to share that with the workforce, get it in front of people? Maybe a traditional method that you've used is printing these out and popping them up around the business, or email, but you realise you have a deskless or non-wired workforce who need to see this as well. And if you've got Vibe, you realise you've got a channel that you can push this out to. But in this format, it's not fit for purpose. It's got great information in it, but it's very, very busy. So one of the examples, before you know which template to choose, is to sit down with the person who created this content, the content contributor, and break down into bite-sized pieces the information that, or ask them, what do they want to get across to people when this information is on screen? So I did that with Karen, who put this PDF together as an example. She provided me with imagery, some images that I could use that support the messaging. For a lot of us, you may have members of your team who where English is a second language. So a picture says 1,000 words. Having a supporting graphic really helps you to drive that message home and keep your text short and snackable. So that was the first step for us, is gathering some of these images at a high or a resolution that would fit our screen. In this case, it would be a landscape screen, so these work really well. They'll fill it up really nicely. And then secondly, we work together. So I'll just open up this text pad. So you can see here, this is our key heading. Okay, we're going to take that away and pop that into the slide, but we've also grouped this information into some key messages. Now, you're not limited by how many messages you add on screen. I will be demonstrating how to take a single template that lets you deliver multiple messages with spaced repetition. But as you can see here, there's a clear heading about what I'm going to be talking about, and then some snackable information about what they can expect around this topic. And I've got 4 of those to add. So to get your content on screen and to help you pick the right template, it's really important that you break down this messaging and discuss internally what it is you need to deliver on screen. So let's jump back in, and now I'll do a live demonstration of creating a slide using that imagery and those snackable messages out of the PDF. For our existing clients, as you know, step 1, create a new slide. You can see here, I know what I'm working with. I've got images that I can use, and I have snackable text. So when we look at the range of templates, there's a lot, as you can see, that support that kind of messaging. If I drill down, maybe let's look at this is a template filter which drills down this full list of options in the library. And you can see here I have a range of different ways that I could present images and snackable text. It's just really about deciding which one's going to work for you. And if, you know, as you add the content, you decide that maybe that layout doesn't quite work, you can always change the template and you'll retain the messages that you've added. So for this example, I'm going to use one called value bubbles. So I'll just search for that one. Grab my title. All right, so first up, all I've done is create the slide and selected the template. It was much easier for me to select the template when I had done a little work in the background to work with my colleague to figure out those key messages that need to get on screen. That is going to save you so much time. The second time saver that you have when you're using the template library is the theme. When you preset a theme with your branding and your primary and secondary color palette, automatically your slides are going to adopt that theme. Again, another time saver. So you can just get on with adding the key messages. So what I'm going to do here is show you an example of how to start adding messages really quickly. Let me just bring this view down. So I'm going to start by dragging the 4 images in that I want to use. Wait a few seconds, and that's going to automatically create each item or the beginning of each item that I want to share on screen. So you can see already it's picking up my heading and the image that I want to share. Now I'm just going to pop in the messages that relate to each image that I've got on screen there. And now we're just doing a simple copy and paste. I'm opening up this item. Let me just drop that summary in. That's number 1. Again, just a simple copy and paste from the text, or email or Word document, whichever one. And at this point, for our new visitors today, you may not know that each message can be assigned to a specific screen. So at this point, if you don't want to share this particular message in one of the areas where your screens are located, you can take that off as well. But by default, all of your locations would pick up this message to save you time having to select. Right, 2 more to go, and in real time, I'm going to have a slide ready to push out to my screen. One of the things that we love, and the reason that we chose this template as well, is not only are you going to see a different message on screen every time the slide appears, there are 3 different layouts as well. So the slide is automatically going to choose a different layout to present each message. That's going to make the content look fresh. It's going to look updated on the viewer's end. Again, that's a way to make your content engaging. If you compare the scenario where you may have just put the static graphic on screen and it's on repeat for days, possibly weeks, this kind of thing is what we refer to as noise. People are really good at shutting noise out. So this kind of busy graphic, we've now easily, using the template, created a snackable slide that's going to deliver those key messages individually. This is another type of layout that would present on screen. If you want to change the colors from the theme that you've got there, you can do that as well, just by turning the theme off and then going ahead and selecting another color from the palette. So I'll just show you that in full screen so you can kind of get a really good look at it. If you've got any questions about the way that the templates are built, Karen Mills, who's on the call with me, our design director, feel free to ask her about that as well, because she heads up the team who produce the Vibe templates and also designs these templates that you're seeing. So that's example one. So what are my key points? Let me get my script out of the way. So really the key points about this demonstration were, the design theme saves you time. Putting your brand into your theme automatically, your slides automatically adopt it. Using a single slide to deliver multiple messages over time with repetition, you can get those messages in front of people. They're relevant. It's what's happening now in the business. You haven't spent a lot of time producing a really eye-catching, professional-looking slide. You've got that animation that draws people in, that captivates, that engages as well. So you're covering a lot of those 5 fundamentals that we talk about: timely, immediacy, simply by using the template library to produce your content rather than going for that static approach. Yes, you could quickly put a static image up and that will take you seconds, but just spending a few minutes more on producing your snackable messages and grabbing some supporting graphics, you'll end up with a really good looking slide like this. It's easy to manage, and if anything changes within the messaging, you don't have to send this back through. You will be able to come in here, add more messages if there are more messages to add around security awareness, or edit the information really easily and get that update on screen in a matter of minutes. So that's demo 1 using Value Bubbles template. Oh, there is one final point, and I will bring this one up. There's, messages on repeat will frustrate people. You will lose trust. You will start to notice that engagement that you initially had, maybe after a launch, over time, people will begin to subconsciously block it out. And you want to establish trust by keeping your information relevant, by keeping it updated. That's one of the real keys to engaging your audience. So now I have a second demo, and I'm going to use the content here that I'll bring up on screen and just talk to you about a couple of other ways. I've sort of touched on spaced repetition, but I really want to kind of drive that home and what it means for your audience as well. So the security awareness example is really about getting engagement, using the templates to save you time, to get that engagement. Now let's look at maybe team profiles. You want to let everybody know who's who within the business. So again, we've got some images that I can use. We've worked out some snackable profile information around each of us here, but we can always update that over time. Slowly introduce different information about our team over time using the Vibe portal as well. So same steps again, but this time I'm going to use a different template, and that one is called Carousel. So I'll go back to all templates. That's this layout here. Just give my slide a title so that I can find it easily back in the list. And I'll use that same approach of dragging and dropping the images straight in to the editor so they're there for me, ready to add any information about each team member. I can take that slide name and use it as my title as well. This would be really cool in a reception area or even internally as well. So you can see straight away my slide's almost ready to go. I just need to add little bits and pieces really. Go ahead and do that. And in real time, I think, Karen, I don't know if you're watching the time, but I'm 1.5 slides in. The really cool thing about the messages as well is the advanced scheduler. So you can set up a message and set it to publish maybe this team member starting in a week's time. So you want to pre-set this and have it ready to go. So you might start this, get this message to show on screen on the 1st of November. And maybe as part of having fresh content up on screen, you make sure that you take this down, after a couple of weeks of that person starting. those are just some ideas that you could apply. Let me see who's got Karen there. And keep your eye on this preview as I'm making updates. But you'll see that the information is just embedding itself in there. The image is automatically animating just to, again, draw attention. These layouts, as you can see, I mean, if you have images and text, you're not limited to just putting profile information. This could be anything. This could be health and safety, anything you can think of. It's my turn now. Here's my photo. And last up, we have Anish. Let's just take a look at what's been produced again in just a couple of minutes. Really professional, really lively. You know, your eyes drawn into the imagery that's presented on screen. There's just enough information there for you to kind of, you know, absorb. Imagine this in the lunchroom or, you know, an area where you're taking a break, a breakout area. And think about that versus maybe a static graphic that you've put together with lots and lots of information about each team member that you really want to get across to everyone. You know, try this approach, break it down, maybe 1 week have some content just based around some personal information on your team members, and then preset another message for to start in a week's time with something different about, you know, their role within the business, and just keep that content engaging, keep it up to date. Use those presets that you have to set and forget. Spend a little bit of time each week preparing, do some planning, and you'll be able to create engaging content just like this. The next thing that you can do, so coming back to spaced repetition, you may have this on screen and everybody starts to see the same people, or, you know, at the beginning, and they walk away from the screen and they never get to see any other team members. You have an option to shuffle the order. So now there's my image first. I'll use the refresh option to show you that the next time that the slide comes up on screen, the order has changed. You've got someone different showing every time at the beginning. Again, that's sort of automating that spaced repetition, so everyone isn't seeing the same thing every time. Let's have a look what happens. Who's up there? Karen, you're taking taking over the slide today. What have you done there? There we go. There's me. So just changing that ordering up automatically is another way of keeping the content fresh on screen without you having to do anything to make that happen. You can't achieve that with a video or a static graphic. Your video is going to be on repeat, and after, you know, seeing it a couple of times, you're going to have to scramble to find new content to keep people engaged. This way, with spaced repetition, that's doing all, you know, the template is doing all of that work in the background for you.
And Aroha, just while we're on that one, I believe the development team have made some updates to this one as well, where there's some different options for the coloured panels. So if that sort of diagonal line isn't good, we've, you know, and that's one of the things that we do is change up the templates occasionally. So if you haven't seen them, you know, be sure to have a look back, and they may have changed.
Yes, so I'll just point out in the preview, this area here where you can see, I'll go full screen actually, you can see here it's sort of got this pointed, I think this is the diamond look, hey Karen? And so they recently, with Karen's guidance, put together some more options so you can have, let's have a look at curve. So if within your business some of your graphics suit more of the curved look, you know, straight away you can change it up and have a different, what are we calling that? Shape.
Yeah, just a different shape. It might suit different brands, you know, a bit more of a curve. There's some other options there, but just thought I'd point that out, that some of our older templates or our tried and true templates are, you know, always changing and being updated.
Yeah, and you've actually, thanks for drawing me to this tab, because, you know, the box background that you can see where the shape is, you can also change the color of that as well. So we've got that theme on by default, but you can always switch that out and change up your colors as well. The background image pool, it's part of your theme where you can upload a series of different backgrounds that are automatically applied to each of your slides. This will change every hour and a different background will show or refresh. So that's another way that things are happening in the background to make your content look fresh on screen, but really you're using the tips and tricks of Vibe to make that happen while you're off on a webinar with Aroha. So yeah, thank you, Karen, that's awesome. I'll just take a snapshot. So what this, when I do it, a snapshot just creates a thumbnail of my content so that when I'm looking at the list view, it gives me a good visual reminder of what the slide contains. So there, nice and easy. I can see it, I can find it. If I need to make any changes, just jump back in, edit that out. You know, people come and go within the business. You can easily swap out that information. So the bottom line here around what I've demonstrated between, you know, creating a security awareness slide and meet the team in a matter of minutes is taking those few extra minutes to set up a slide will increase engagement and captivate your audience. And sharing static info on screen will impact your ability to connect with your audience. So take that sort of static digital signage approach, that information I gave around what that was designed for, screens where people aren't necessarily going to see that information very much, or versus your internal comms where you want to, you know, keep your audience captive because they're seeing the content on screen more often than not. And now it's time to talk about communicating with immediacy. So I have given you some tips when considering, you know, what you need to do to get ready to start loading your content into the portal. But imagine if you didn't even have to do any of what I've just demonstrated. Imagine if, you know, these slides that you can see on screen, like this scoreboard or this photo board, what if all of that information just automatically was pulled into the slide without you having to do anything other than just set up the slide and connect it to a data source? And that's where Vibe's data integration comes in. A lot of these slides that you can see, you do not need to go through these steps of manually uploading. I'll show you, let me just go back to my notes and make sure I've covered. So both of those examples I've shown you are really simple. They are simple and they can be done in a matter of minutes. But let's talk about the time challenge that you face. How many, you know, hands up, how many of you don't even have time to do that part? How amazing would it be just to talk internally about the different data sources that you have, work with the team, and then contact us to work out how to connect that information that you have. Maybe it's in a spreadsheet already, and rather than you manually loading that, you want to just connect it up to Vibe, have that information go out to your screens in near real time, whether it's Outlook, Yammer, Workplace, a social media platform that you're managing, and you want to pull that through. Vibe can definitely do that for you. So let me demonstrate with SharePoint as my data source. Okay, so I'll show you my SharePoint folder. Just got it set up here with some spreadsheets, some imagery that I want to use on screen as well. All of that gets stored in the same folder or in a subfolder where you so keep everything tidy. But I've got this business KPIs spreadsheet here. So what I want to do is connect that data. I'll just open it up. It's a really simple format. You know, the things that will change from time to time is the actual planned. You can change at whatever intervals you like. But yeah, if you had a simple spreadsheet like this, connecting up to one of the Vibe templates can animate it, make it lively. So I'll show you how that's done. In this example, I'm going to use the multi-dial template. Add in a heading. So imagine these are all the steps you'd have to take. And then my content source. So depending on what integration that you've set up, you'll see the different options, but by default, these are the default 4 that you'd see. So for SharePoint, it's just a matter of picking that as my content source and then finding the spreadsheet that I want to connect to this slide. And just like that, each time there is a change made in the spreadsheet, that information will be pulled in automatically, so you're delivering up-to-date information in near real time to your workforce and allowing the slide to kind of deliver it in a snackable way, in a vibrant, animated and lively way as well. That's going to keep them engaged. So if you've got dashboards or you've got content that's quite busy and you want help to really drill down and get the key message on screen or the key data insights in front of your workforce, we can work with you to do that. There's a heap of layouts, but we can also talk about custom templates for you as well. Between the theme and the content source, it's really doing all the work. If you're a little bit, and you have the option of maybe changing a couple of design colors here and there, I've just made this background black so that my dials can pop, but that's really it. And once you're happy with the data passing through, you go ahead, push that out to your different playlists, either all of them or a select few, and that information is published on your channel within minutes. That's what we mean by communicating with immediacy. One of the fundamentals, get the information out. If you were relying on this being a manual process, you go on leave, this data has now been up there for a week and a half, your people start again to lose trust in this being a relevant source of information for them. This is your comms channel. You want to get the most out of this investment. Automate as much as possible. So with choosing to automating your content and also working on ways to get your colleagues or your content contributors to provide you the information that you need, the key messages. These are 2 key ways to communicate with immediacy and effectively communicate as well. I love the idea of automation because if you go on leave and you don't have a backup, you know that this information is being updated automatically and the people who need to see it are seeing it. So bottom line, use the templates as much as possible, automate as much as possible, and build a briefing template for your contributors. So for a colleague, have something ready to go. If a colleague sends you a 5-page PowerPoint or a 3-page PDF or an email and they say, hey, can you get this on screen? You've got a template really ready to go with a response that says, this would be great to have on our channel. What are the key messages that you'd like me to get through? And what graphics would you like me to use? Can you get those to me? That's going to speed up your turnaround time if you are loading content manually. And it's going to teach them to really boil those big documents down from something that was designed maybe for print, maybe for email, into something that you can use on your Vibe channel. Right. That's it as far as the live demonstration. So I'm just going to come back in now, Karen.
Awesome, Aroha. No, they're really good examples. Absolutely love them.
Karen's
really good to see what we can do. Oh yeah.
Hopefully you can all see my story. Yeah. So Karen's put this awesome background together for me so I could drive home those key points. Okay. So remember, a static message is a dead message. Number 1, use the template library to bring your internal comms channel to life. Number 2, keep the audience captivated with up-to-date content. I hope I'm reading these in order, Karen. Please help me. Well, I'll just summarize, okay?
Yeah.
Use randomization. I showed you that shuffle sort option so that every time messages come up in a different order, that's that part of that spaced repetition, okay? Having spaced repetition, giving people time to absorb each message and then come back around to it at a later stage is going to help with retention. It's going to create that positive change that you're looking for in your business. Localize your content. Okay, so if you're sort of managing comms at a high level for the entire, for all locations, think about offering or opening up the content creation to somebody on site so that they are able to deliver local messages that are meaningful to the team that's working where that screen is. There is definitely space for group news, but localized content is what's going to really pull people in and feel like that's their channel, that's the communication for them. And then teach your content contributors how to give you the content that matters. So get the content that matters, not big documents full of information that's key, but is not going to fit on the screen. QR codes are fantastic for driving people to go and read more detail, maybe on your intranet or maybe online, but keep your Vibe channel snackable. Awesome. That's me. Those are the key points. We'll be
nice.
we'll be following up with a webinar recording so that you can watch back. I'm available. Get in touch with me. If you've been invited by one of my colleagues, please get in touch with them if you have more questions. Vaughan Reid wasn't on the call today, but he is available and he is aware of what we've covered, so he'd be able to answer any questions directly with you as well. Anything in the chat, Karen? We're at the interaction time now.
I think I've done a good job of answering some people's questions. So Melissa was asking about fonts, but yes, we can put in any WOF font into the global theme, so that takes throughout. But we do plan on some font updates from our dev team, and also the count functionality. So currently we've got the green count, which counts words in most of the fields, but we do plan on having sort of like, dare I say it, a traffic light system of green, orange and red. So when you're in red, that's not optimal, but yeah, we'll try and clear that away from the COVID announcement, but that was ours first. So I'll take that one first.
Darn it, we should have had this webinar sooner.
yeah, no, so that's I think we've answered those, and that was great.
Awesome. Everyone have a great day, and thank you, Karen, for taking care of all the background stuff for me.
Awesome, Aroha. Thanks.